So welcome at Ask Professor for this first time. I really hope you enjoy the course. And I also like the course because you sent me a lot of questions about operating and about the timetabling. So I really appreciate, and hopefully I can give some answers and feedback on your questions. Now I'm sitting here at the TU Delft and we are sitting here in a small station, you could say, for the students, so they have an idea how it looks like when you are running with the train and how you're sitting and what are the equipments you meet and greet in the real world. So here at the university we like to explain exactly how everything works, and therefore I like to support you with this Ask the Professor questions. So question one I had is, what is the background of the professionals who make this timetabling? And I think that's a good question, but also it's not fair, because you can make a really nice timetabling, but it will not function because it is not connected well in the real world. So it is not only the profession you need, but when you zoom in on the profession of timetabling, it is about really the mathematics you need, because you have so much constraints, so much equations to solve, because you have to train, you have the rolling stock and the coaches in combination, but also the train driver and the service on board. And of course you need capacity, and can it fit on the real infra outside? I think you have to be aware. So a lot of equations you have to solve, that's the main topic to do, but also about how does it connect it outside. For example, when you have a really nice timetabling and every 3 minutes you have a train. But what about level crossing? Because it's always closed. So you have to be aware of that and how to make this happen in the real world. So the environmental things, the connections, and also the connections with the people outside and the society is also important. So when you talk about skills, it's not only programming and making to solve the timetable, but also how to connect it to the integrated system outside. Another question is, when you look about the background of these people, it's not only about the background, is also about how to integrate it, and what about when it is not going well outside. So then you also need some extra, you could say, skills to communicate, for example. When you are really in operating mode outside and you have a timetable, but it will not fix exactly, then what? I think that's also a question you have to have in mind. So then you have to solve it on the spot. And when you're in the operating side to do the operating of the timetabling, then you also need the skills of communication, of course. Or when there is a disaster or an explosion or whatever, then you have to also act in that way, and very accurate in a very short time, because otherwise you have a real traffic jam and everybody is standing on the platform and no trains are running. So I think that's really an important issue. So not only looking at how to solve the timetable issue, the equations, but also how to solve the integrated system, the full loop of how to operate trains in the real world outside. Another question I got from you as a student for the timetabling questions is about how is the performance of a timetabling, what is the best one, is there a benchmark or whatever in Europe? I think it's not about what is the best timetabling. I think the timetabling is just a tool. So you have to be aware of how is the timetabling connected well to the question, demand, and the coaches and the train operators, etc., etc. I think that's the question. And therefore I'm sitting here in our laboratory, sitting on the real wheel. Don't worry, it's not outside, I'm just safe here in our laboratory, and Ask Professor to zoom in and to show you that we also can have all kinds of details here in the lab. So the question about the performing is, what is the best performing timetabling solution? I think the best way is when you have no problems, when there are some disturbances or whatever. So the robustness, I think that's the question about what is good. So the best way is, can I have a real good solution with this timetabling, is to have a robust one, and when there are problems that it is easy to solve. I think then you talk about a good performing one. When you look at the performance, for example, in the world, you have Japan, you have Switzerland, but also Holland. We do very well with the performance of heavy rail of 92%. I think that's a good way, and also a chance to develop further, because when you look at metro and tramway systems, then you talk about 98%. So when you like to have more trains, you have to have a higher possession without any problems. So I think that's also a real good balance you have to keep in mind. Another nice question I got from you was about the integrated timetable. I think my colleague, Professor Rob Goverde, can talk much more about the timetable itself and how to integrate it and how to connect it well to the environment. But also I think it is more a step beyond that. And I think that's what I can mention to you all, is about when you have this timetable and you are like to integrate that, for example, when you have a train going to Belgium or to another country and connected to Holland, then it is another dimension, because you have also different signaling systems, software problems, all kind of things, because you're across the border, and how to make that integrated and robust and fixing well, inclusive and predefined solution when it is going wrong, for example. So that combination of how to solve it and how to make this happening in a real good way, that's really a challenge you have to have when you like to make a timetable just on the spot and integrate it as well. So the last question I'd like to discuss with you is about what is the real combination of problems and timetabling. Because what are the common problems you can get when you have a timetabling? Because a timetable is nice, but that's just the theory. And theory, that's not the practice. So when there are problems or some pop-ups in the network, how to solve it? I think that's really an issue and also the challenge when you have a timetable. So you need a backup. So you need predefined solutions, for example. You need all kinds of scenarios when there are problems. For example, when you have a really crowded station like Utrecht in Holland. So all the trains are coming in every minute of an hour. So when you have a problem, then you need time to solve it. But there is no time, because the trains are coming in every minute. So you get a traffic jam. When the traffic jam is just on the yard, well, you could say, so what? But you don't have that amount of capacity on the platforms. So you get this traffic jam is going bigger and bigger, and it will go to the main route. But when you have a traffic jam on the main route, then you have really an issue and how to solve that one. So therefore, a timetable is not just solving the capacity in time and the trains and the service on board, but especially also how to solve it when you go in this station and you have troubles. So you have a disruption, and how to solve that one. I think that's really the challenge, and be aware of that. So your robustness of your timetable is just not the theory, but also integrated with the connection with the practice, the operating outside, and how to run these trains as soon as possible when you have disruptions. And in that time, you have the disruptions. My solution would be, okay, make as much as platform capacity buffering, you could say, as possible, and that time slot must be the same as the time you need to solve the timetabling with predefined solutions or another integrated way to get on with your operations. So that's it for this week. So on the next 2 weeks I will come back. Hopefully you really send me a lot of questions. I really enjoy that. So when you can do that, please. Hopefully in the meantime you learn a lot. You learn more and more about the operating, not only theory, but also the integrated things system, how to continue, how to make the connection with the other things around you, and not just only the predefined solutions. Good luck.